Hello, you were watching FTMKingdom with Theo. We're on week 50, I believe. I still don't know why I keep bringing up the week because it's written right there, but whatever. And this week we are talking about transitioning in the UK and how good or bad we think that is. Um, I'm quite surprised we haven't actually talked about this before because it was meant to be highlighting the UK stuff, but I don't know. We would talk about this shit. Um, so I will start with the cons of transitioning in the UK, so we'll end on a nice good note. So I think the kind of downsides about transitioning in the UK as a subjective, I think it's subjective point of view as somebody who's only transitioned in the UK, from what I've gathered, I think one of the big things is transitioning is just a little bit harder because it's not as my eyebrows are going fucking crazy. It's not as a widely known issue, and there's not as many surgeons. But of course, we're in a pretty fucking small country. But it's just a little bit harder for people to know what we're talking about, from what I've seen, anyway. And we have got a fucking huge population considering our small little country. So there's longer wait times, and there's not many clinics. There's not many surgeons. And it's just a little bit more of a squeeze. There's also, it's very hard to get hormones before like 16, 18. I mean, you can get blockers before you're 18, but you have to go through Tavistock, and I've heard that's a fucking ball ache. But from what I've gathered in the US, you can sometimes get put on hormones before 18, and they can sometimes give you blockers quite young, like 14 years old. When they'll actually do some good because you can stop a good portion of puberty by then. There's generally more resources. I am mainly talking about the US and Canada because I don't really know about transitioning like Japan or anything like that. But there seems to be more resources. Like if you're trying to buy a binder over here, generally you're going to be buying from China or Underworks, so the US. There's not any or many companies that do stuff in the UK. So there's Amazon, which buy from like other companies, and so it's a little bit cheaper. But generally it's not. There's nothing UK based. Packers, especially. I mean, pretty much the only packer I know that you can get here is the Mr. Limpy from Love Honey and stuff like that. And I've looked mainly because I know quite a few people in the US, so I've like helped them with what I know, and so I found like projects for them in the US, and you can buy a packer for like what would be the comparative of about £3, whereas here it's about £15. So that's fucking huge. And you don't have to wait an extortionate amount of time to get it sent, which is kind of annoying. I think it's better than it used to be though. I mean, it's just when I ordered my first STP, it took about a year to arrive, but that was because it wasn't a very great company. That's all I've got. I've actually made a list so I don't forget stuff because I'm very forgetful. So that's kind of the downsides of being in the UK, but there are upsides. I think the biggest upside that everybody seems to know is the NHS, which is a fucking amazing thing because you don't have to pay too much. I mean, you have to pay for travel, and if you don't get free prescriptions, of course you have to pay the prescription charge every month, or however you manage that. But you don't have to pay for surgery, and you don't have to pay for stuff. So, and there is the private option if you do want to speed things up, which is good. And people in like the US, they don't have that. They have to fund everything, get insurance and shit like that, and that does not sound fun at all. I believe Depol's changing your name is a little bit easier here. You don't have to go. This is just the only experience I know is of a guy in New York who had to go to like court and get it. Had to have somebody say, okay, yes, you can do this, which is kind of yeah, you can just do it online. You can just print out a piece of paper, as far as I know, and get some stickers for it. If you do transition in the UK, it's not really too far to travel. I mean, there are, of course, less clinics, and a lot of them seem to be up north. If you live, I mean, I live in, like, round about Southampton, and I'm exactly 97 miles from the gender clinic in London, and I'm exactly 97 miles from the one in Exeter. So that's kind of annoying because I don't know which one is closer to go to, because neither is closer. So I'm with London because it's just easier. But generally that is not that far. I mean, if you want treatment in the US, you know, if you want to go get surgery, you might have to fly all the way to Florida, even if you're in like fucking Washington or something like that, to get the surgeon that you want. Generally, if you're going to stay in the UK, you don't have to go further than about 5 or 6 hours. And that would be on a bad day. Another big point, which I think is fucking amazing, we're really, I'm grateful for, of course it could be a lot better, but is the protection. We've got the Equality Act, generally discrimination in workplaces, at school, for housing and stuff like that, you know, it is a crime, whereas in America they do not have that everywhere. And, you know, you can get fired because you're trans, and you can get fucking beat up, and it's totally okay. So we are, I don't want to say lucky, because we should have that, everywhere should have that, but it is a good thing that it is in place and everything. Yeah, of course bad stuff does still happen, but it is still against the law and everything. So we do kind of have a little safety net there. And you know, if you get like fired because you're trans, you know, you've got some comeback from it. You're not just sat around like nobody gives a shit. And I do know people in America who have been fired because they're trans, which fucking is just so out of order. I'm so pissed. So I think that's all I've got for pros and cons. I'm gonna show off my t-shirt because it's got velociraptors and dinosaurs on it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry that was really like Western focused. I don't really know anything about transitioning in, say, Eastern countries. I kind of know a bit about Thailand, but I think that's because it's like a big thing. But I don't know. I've had surgery pretty cheap over there, but you know, I wouldn't really want to fly over there for surgery or anything. Trying to think of other countries. Belgium have got their own fallow team, and I know that you can go there for it, so I imagine it's not too difficult there. I know some countries used to make you try and get sterilised before you could get treatment, but I think that might have been repealed. I know that was in Sweden, but I think that was repealed. So yeah, we've got it all right. It's not too bad. I think every country's going to have its pros and its cons, but I think, like, I would love to move to America at some point in the future, or just go there for quite a while. But the whole thing of I would have to get funding for tea, I would have to get, you know, well, like insurance or something. That does kind of put me off. So I don't know whether to go live in Canada and just live on the border and keep coming to America. We'll see how that goes. So yeah, thank you for watching. This was a long one. And I will see you all next week. Thank you. Goodbye.